The first Test 100 for Zak Crawley. It is a moment he will never forget. 250. The milestones keep coming for the young man.
I'm very proud. It's obviously great to be picked by your peers as having a good season. So I mean, it means a lot to me. And like I said earlier, there's so many good names on that list that I'm now a part of. So it's very special.
And obviously the summer that we've just had has been a bit odd, especially for yourself, like in the kind of biosecure bubble as well. How do you kind of sum up the actual cricket that we've had?
It's been great. I mean, like I say, we at one point didn't like we were going to get any cricket, so to get the cricket we did, and then to have two good series in the Test matches, and then great couple of ODI series and T20 series, and then to get the county stuff on as well. I think it's been a great season so far actually, and it's shown us quite a few ways that we might go about cricket in the future with the way the county cricket's gone. So that's been really good.
And yourself personally, obviously, you know, hoping to start the kind of the summer, I suppose, in Sri Lanka, and obviously, you know, what happened there, and then to come back, force your way, I suppose, into the England Test team again, and then, you know, you must have been really pleased with, I suppose, getting back in and kicking on.
Yeah, absolutely. I was pleased to get a score at the end there. I mean, when I got dropped, because obviously Stokes couldn't bowl in the third Test match of that West Indies series, I thought and it wasn't a great injury he had, so I was thinking there's not looking great here that I'll play the rest of the summer. So to play the last two games, obviously in unfortunate circumstances because of Stokes had to leave, but you know, it was great to play for England again, and to get a couple of scores was nice.
And obviously, you know, it was kind of a straight shootout between you and Joe. Obviously, good friends, obviously played together for a long time, knowing each other. That must have been, I suppose, slightly difficult for both of you, really, in some ways.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, it wasn't the way I wanted it for sure. I mean, to take Joe's place in the side, he's played so well for England over the last couple of years, and some really hard series as well. I mean, the runs he got against Australia were brilliant runs, and he did it again in multiple series. So you know, he did a great job. But you know, I'm sure he was desperate to play for England, as was I. So we were both happy with whatever outcome came. But like I said, it was a shame because he's a great player, and I'm sure he'll be back.
And then I suppose taking the opportunities when it comes, I suppose, in any walk of life is important, isn't it? And you must have been pleased, I suppose, that you could do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely felt under a bit of pressure on numerous occasions, actually, going into a few knocks this summer, and in each of those I managed to get a decent score. So no, I was pleased with that. Hopefully that will stand me in good stead if I can keep doing that. But you know, I was just so pleased to be playing for England, and that's the way I had to try and take each game.
And I remember, I think it might have been actually ahead of the last test. Yeah, how did you kind of switch off from that outside noise? Because obviously the England batting lineup, you know, it's a talking point growing up. You've seen and read it all and had your own opinions. And I think I did see quite a few places. It was like, oh, if you scored like under 20, you're doing average under 30 in first class cricket or something. Obviously, go and get 260 odd. But how do you kind of switch that off and not pay any attention to it? Because you must see bits of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You see it all the time, and people mention it to you, and like, oh, did you see that there? Or did you see that? So it's hard to switch off from it, but you just got to keep going back to times when I play well. I mean, I like to keep things written down when I've played well, and videos on my phone of when I've played well, and that's kind of what I go to. And in times when I'm doubting myself, I just try and look at times when I've played well and seen that I've done it before, and try and do it again. But like you say, it's not easy. That's the hardest thing I found about playing for England, is the outside noise is just 100 times more than county cricket. So I think that was the hardest thing, and I'm starting to get used to it a bit more now. But yeah.
And that 267, I'm sure obviously a lot of people have spoken to you the last few weeks and months about that. How did you feel kind of going into that game? How did you kind of, I suppose, mentally prepare yourself and throughout the innings to keep going? Because obviously batting for that amount of time is difficult.
Yeah, I prepare for the game like any other game. I try and keep it the same, so nothing different there, which is a shame. I wish there was some secret formula which I could now use, but there wasn't. But it was just I got off to a nice start. They bowled me a couple of loose balls actually, which the two openers didn't really get. And I got a couple straight away, so I got off to a nice start, which settled the nerves and kind of went from there. And you know, it's a beautiful pitch to bat on. I was thankful I was batting with Joss, who I've got on well with off in the bubble, and you know, he's a very cool head. And those times, obviously coming up to my 100 and different milestones where I was nervous, maybe lose my concentration a bit, but he always pulled me back in, so it was good to bat with him. And you know, like I said, to score 200 in a test match was, you know, I didn't think I was capable of it before I did it, so no, it was great.
And as you mentioned earlier before about Rob Key going past his score as well. Obviously, there's a lot made on the commentary of Rob Key. I suppose his influence. Is there much of an influence there, or is it all a bit bravado?
No, it's a big influence. I talked to him quite a bit about the game. He's a great cricket brain, and I've known him for years now. And when I feel out of touch, saying I always give him a call or ask to see if he can see me for have a look at my game for a bit. So I get on well with Rob, and like I say, he was a great player in his own right. So if I can pull some knowledge from him, then that's great.
And going past his score, when you did that bit of a round of applause and stuff, probably one of the moments of the summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, everyone. It was obviously quiet ground with no one there, and you could hear all the lads clapping on the balcony, and then Josh giving me a big handshake, and it was quite bizarre, really. I knew what was going on, but it was I wanted to see Keith's face up there. He wouldn't have been too happy with it.
And you mentioned Josh there, obviously, in his role as one of the senior players now in the test team. Himself was under pressure going into the last couple of tests of the summer. How nice was it being out there? And he said that you actually felt that senior figure helped you, and I'm sure probably the other young lads as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I mean, he showed great strength the way he came back in the summer and played some unbelievable knocks. I mean, the knock him and Chris Wokes played in that first test was one of the two best knocks I've seen under the pressure, under the circumstances. So, and then obviously to score 150, he's a great character to have in the change room, and he's a very senior figure and like a composed head on his shoulders there. So, he's a great man to have around.
And you mentioned there a little bit about being in the bubble. Exactly what was that like? Because I'd imagine it could get a bit tiresome at times.
Yeah, it was very similar to the lockdown before that, where it was pretty boring. There wasn't a lot to do, and especially when the first couple of weeks weren't too bad because we were in our own bubble, just with the big squad, and so we could do a bit more. But when the opposition teams came, obviously we had to social distance quite a bit. So that was when it got a bit more boring. We had to keep ourselves to ourselves a bit more, and there wasn't a lot to do. But I'll do it all again to play, 4 test matches or the 6 test matches that we played. So it was no brainer to go through that.
And you mentioned there as well about Chris Wokes. Obviously, he's not there to bring England home. He's won the NatWest PCA Men's Player of the Year as well. Just I suppose, what are your thoughts on the summer that he's had once again?
Well, thoroughly deserved, obviously, to be Player of the Year. I mean, a brilliant summer. He's just a consistent performer in all facets of the game, all formats of the game. So, he's well worthy of that title for sure. And I'm sure it's, we're going to see plenty more of him in the future for sure.
What's it been like, obviously, coming up to, I suppose, a year of being involved, kind of in and around the setup of that kind of transition of going into the England setup, and like you said, the pressures, everything different. I'd imagine the backroom staff, the way you looked after everything is just levels ahead. How have we kind of settled into that?
No, it was a pretty easy transition actually, because senior players made that so, and they're quite big on that, making it easy for new guys coming in, and they're very big on the culture at the moment, and it was very easy that they made us feel welcome straight away, and it was handy. There was quite a few lads who were new to the environment, so we kind of shared that together. But the senior players made it very easy. So I mean, it was pretty swift transition.
And then obviously you spoke about England quite a bit, but then you came back and you're fortunate with the time. I suppose it kind of led into the start of the Blast, and obviously Bob Willis came in there as well. How pleased are you coming back to Kent, and then I suppose continuing some of that form that you showed for England?
Yeah, no, I love coming back to Kent, seeing obviously my good mates here, and playing with them, and I'd love to win a trophy for Kent. I've been here my whole life, and we're building something good here, so it'd be good to get some silverware, and we've got a good chance. And
the maiden T2000, obviously, you're still a young player, still want to, I suppose, be showing that you're a player for all situations and all formats still. And how important was that to kind of get that 100 quite early on?
Yeah, no, massively important. I mean, it was a great opportunity that I had there to get that day, and I was quite determined when I got to 50, 60 to get that 100 actually, because they stand out, hundreds. If I get 80, 90, it's a great knock, and I played really nicely that day. But I was very determined to get that 100 because you can't really miss out on opportunities like that. So I was very pleased.
And what are kind of your future ambitions on that front of being, I suppose, an all-format player? That must be very much kind of your vision, I guess, at some stage. But
absolutely, yeah. I'd love to play white ball cricket as well for England. Obviously, it's a tough side to get into. They're a pretty decent side, but I'd love to score. If I keep scoring runs for Kent, hopefully, and knock at that door down the line, then I'd absolutely love that. I mean, I saw them win the World Cup last year, and that looked like decent fun. So that's definitely something that all county cricketers would love, I'm sure. So yeah, no, I'm no different.
And talked a little bit about the the John Hallett Cup there, it's presented to the Young Player of the Year. Obviously the names on that, especially over the last 10-15 years, kind of a high proportion of them have gone on to have long test careers and white ball careers as well for England. Look at them and think, quite a nice company to be in.
Absolutely, I mean they're great players, and like I say, if I can have half the careers of names on there, or even less than that, I'll take that right now. So it's very humbling to be in their company, and like I say, hopefully I can follow in their footsteps in some way.
And obviously the PCA awards, one of the biggest things about it is that player-to-player recognition. There's lots of awards obviously at the end of the season, which we all see, but how important is the ones that are player voted?
Absolutely, you want to be respected by your peers, and to be voted by your peers as having the best season for a young player is great, and it just fills you a lot of confidence that you're doing things well, and it gives you more motivation for the coming years.
And then just briefly on the future, obviously very uncertain, the immediate future. What's kind of your plans now after what's been a pretty stressful summer one way or another for everyone?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So like you said, try and have a little bit of time off and then see what the schedule is. But get back into it and make sure I'm ready for whenever the next series or anything could be. I'm not sure what it could be anything. So I'm trying to make sure I'm ready for whatever comes next.